So, hi, very good evening, Nikita ma'am. How are you?
Hi, good evening. I'm good. How are you doing?
Great, great, great.
Okay, great. So today we are starting with data collection and sampling. First of all, if you have any doubts from the previous sessions, you can ask me before we, jump on to the next topic. Anyone has any doubts, or we can? Shall we start? Okay. So I'm starting with data collection and sampling today. See, data collection is something which is very important because all of your analysis, your outcomes, your findings would depend on the data that you will be collecting. So that is why it becomes a very, very important aspect of, your research. So first of all, what we'll be talking about how you can collect the data, and in the next part we'll be talking about the analysis part and all that. Right. So jumping onto the data collection, so there are these primary data collection methods and secondary. So the major difference between the primary and the secondary data collection methods is primary is the one which you get on your own, and you're not taking from any paper, you're not relying on any data which is already collected. You are collecting your own data. So how you can collect your own data is have you seen Google Forms? There are so many people, so many researchers who send across these Google Forms as a part of their research. So that is a part of the primary research because they are collecting data on their own. And there are many methods of collecting primary data, that is statistical method, surveys. So a lot of, so basically government is someone which totally depends on primary data. Have you heard of census?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is an activity which takes place like in all in 10 years. uh, so that is something that is a basically primary data collection method because government is collecting its own data. And I hope you understand the difference, right? So if you are conducting an interview, if you are interviewing a personality, a famous personality in your field, that is a primary data collection, right? Surveys, polls. Have you seen in news channels there are all these polls popping up in the sites that these many percent people believe that this should be done, and these people think that this should not be done. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So that is a part of the primary data collection method. So primary is something where you are collecting your own data. That is the thumb rule here. Secondary data collection is something when you take data from the already collected data. For example, financial reports of a company. If you are taking, if you're quoting from government reports, if you are quoting from, some, so for example, have you heard of the CIPRI report? It's a very famous report which comes every year, not every year. It comes in sometimes months also,
Yes,
special
ma'am.
editions. And what their work is, they, yes, if you have heard, so you know about it, right? They talk about the defense deals, defense acquisitions, whoever is, which country is buying, what amount of submarines and all that. So everything is mentioned in it. So CIPRI is doing what? It is doing primary data collection. And what we are doing is, if we are quoting from CIPRI, is that is secondary data collection. I hope the difference is clear.
Yes,
If you
ma'am.
have any doubts, you can ask me. Like,
No, ma'am.
otherwise,
Ma'am.
okay, great. Statistics. See, I know you're not from the statistics part, and you are working on the legal side, but these are the basic of the research for conducting any sort of research. So we'll just have an overview of all this. Statistics is basically a field of study which talks about collection, organization, and summarization of data. So basically, you all would be doing this. So what, first of all, you'll be collecting the data, then you'll be organizing it in part, then you'll be summarizing it, and later on, analysis part comes in, right? That is called descriptive statistics. Second is the drawing of inferences about a body of data when only a part of the data is observed, right? So this is called inferential statistics. Most of you would be doing descriptive, right? Or some of you already, I don't remember your research topics much because it's been a lot of time. But if you are analyzing some data, already a set of data which is already there, then you will be doing inferential statistics. For example, I can give you one example of inferential statistics is if somebody is doing the evolution of fundamental rights, so that becomes inferential. Okay. Is that clear? Okay, I just assume
Ma'am,
that it's clear.
ma'am,
Yes, yes.
could you elaborate a bit on that aspect of it?
Inferential, yes, yes. Just a second. Can you just give me 1 second? I need to switch on the AC. Sorry. Yeah. Is that visible again?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So basically, inferential statistics is something when you are analyzing a part of data and you are drawing different inferences. For example, if you take a topic which is, opinion based or something like that, like UCC, different people can, draw different inferences out of it. uh, I hope now that makes sense. For example, somebody is doing war studies, for example, Iraq US war that took place. So a lot of people, a lot of different researchers can, draw different inferences from whatever data is available. See, the data would be same. It's like the people who are working on it, they are different and they are coming out with different results. I hope that
So,
makes
ma'am,
some.
basically, it is interpreting of something in a different way, right? If I'm
Exactly.
not wrong.
Yes, yes, yes. It you so basically different people when different researchers even they work on single topic, single subject, then also the result and the analysis part can be very different from each other. Even while they're talking about the same data, they're quoting the same data, but still the way they interpret it's different. For example, Supreme Court has done it. If we talk about the legal side, Supreme Court has done it many times, right? A particular for example, Article 21, it's been like interpreted so many times in a different manner by different, judges, right? Different hearings. So that is how inferential statistics we can do. The data becomes, very important here. I think somebody has written a message. Actually, you can raise your hand and what is happening. Yes, Pushpinder.
Ma'am, could you please take a hypothetical situation when you take something for body of data and then you tell me what is the part of the data?
We'll be talking about it. Don't worry. We'll be talking about in details what consists data and all that. So that will come. Don't worry about it. And if you still have doubts, so we'll talk about it. Don't worry. I've just started the
All right, ma'am.
hope that works, right? Exactly how you can collect the data and what consists of data. See, if there is a lot of population, for example, India, if somebody is researching on India, leave India, if somebody is even researching some aspect of Delhi has a population of around 2.5 crores. So do you think it is feasible to take into account the opinion and aspects of 2.5 crore people? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Or so you think you can do that?
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible, right? It's not humanly possible. You need like super big enterprises, organizations for doing such a big research. Even when census takes place, the whole government machinery, gets involved into it. So it is very difficult. It's not an easy task to take into account the whole population. So what we do is we do sampling. What we do is we choose, some people out of that cohort, like 2.5 crore. For example, we have chosen, like, it depends now how much you can choose. That depends on your research, right? For example, if somebody is working on women rights, so what becomes important is the population technically becomes half. 2.5 crores divided by 2, that is almost the female pop. That would be around the female population in Delhi. Again, now from that cohort, you have to choose this. You have to sample it out, right? So what we do is, it's so, since it is very difficult to study the population part, so what we do is we do sampling. I'll tell you different techniques for sampling and what exactly sampling is. So the process of using sample statistics to, so what we do is we make a small sample out of the whole lot of population, and we do our research, and we do take into their opinions. And what we do is we create conclusions on a sample. Now whatever inference you take out of that sample, you think that it is true for a sample, that even becomes true for the whole population. For example, I can give you one example. I know it's very technical part. So we were talking about the women rights. Now somebody is researching on the women rights of working women in office, in organizations or in workplace, right? So that the population of women, and that too working women, so you have to make a sample of working women, and then you have to ask them the questions, or they can participate in a survey. Then if you think that women, so you for your sample there were like, just imagine there are 1,000 people in your sample. 1,000 working women are there in your sample. Now, you ask them the questions to those 1,000 women, and whatever those 1,000 women think. For example, out of that 1,000 women, 70% think that they do not feel safe in their workplace. So that would also apply to the whole population. That is called inferential statistics. Is that clear? I hope that makes some sense.
It does, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So whatever inference that is true for one sample, that is also true for the population. So basically, what we do is technically we research on the sample, right? You do not need to research on the whole population aspect. Okay. So this is what I was trying to tell you, out of all. So you take a you take a sample from the population. That is, in making a sample, we use the sampling theory. From the sample, we make a statistic. Okay. So whatever you research, that becomes a sample statistic. For example, the sample statistics says that 75% of women, they do not want to work because they do not feel safe while traveling. Just, it's a hypothetical situation, do not consider it true. So 75% females think that do not feel comfortable while traveling. That becomes a sample statistic. Now, if you apply it on the population, so how will you say it? Can anyone give me example? It would be same, that 75% of women population, working women population, thinks that they do not feel safe. So that becomes a parameter of the population. For sample, it is called as statistic in technical terms, and for population the same thing is known as parameter. Is it okay?
Ma'am, can you explain it again? I really didn't get it.
Okay, so basically, whatever aspect of a sample, just tell me anything, any example. Okay, I'll give you one example by myself. For example, somebody is researching on women rights in Afghanistan after Taliban, in under Taliban's rule. Okay, I hope
Huh,
this
ma'am.
question, yeah, right. So what will you do? You'll choose 1,000 women from the whole Afghanistan. Probably that would also be very difficult to take into account their opinions. So you have a
Yes.
sample of 1,000 women from Afghanistan, and now these 1,000 women think that their rights have been deteriorated under the Taliban regime, right?
Hmm.
That becomes sample statistic.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Now, in terms of if you apply, see, now in the sample, we are only talking about 1,000 women, right? So, when you're talking about the population, when you will apply the same part, just the result that you have got from your sample, to your entire population, that becomes a parameter. It's just the name that gets changed. Otherwise, everything is same.
Okay, ma'am.
So you'll say that, we did a research on 1,000 people, and if you apply it to the population of whatever the, women number is in that do
Hmm.
not feel safe, that becomes a parameter. So that's the name only gets
Okay.
changed, otherwise everything is same.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Great. So this is very easy. Some sampling methods are there. You can, understand it on your own. I'll just skim through it very quickly. One is the random sampling, where everyone has an equal chance of being selected, right? So it's something like a, what do we say? Like chits nahi when we in a bowl we put a lot of chits, and then every chit has an equal possibility of being selected, right? That is something as a random sampling. Like there is no pattern in it. It's totally random. Clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very easy. Next is systematic. So systematic is something, for example, you have a list of people, you have like 1,000 people in a list, and what you are doing is you are selecting every third person from it. That becomes a systematic sampling, because every kth element in the population. So random sampling is considered as the one of the most good method for sampling, right? Because there is no biasness is involved in it. Okay. Clear? It's very easy. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
something
ma'am.
very, yeah. Convenient sampling is, so basically you use the results which are very easy to get. For example, you just ask your friends, you just send your questionnaire to your friends. What do you think about this? Because these are the only people you know. That is convenience, because it is convenient for you to do it. Okay.
Okay.
Stratified sampling is, so basically you subdivide the population into different groups. So, for example, you can see in the picture very clearly there is a group of two. You have created two subgroups. For example, one group only consists of women, and one group only consists of men. And now, for the example that we took of women, Afghanistan, Taliban, and all that, that is an example of stratified sampling, because first of all you have taken only women. Then in women you are only talking, like we were talking about the working women in Delhi. So one subgroup is you're only talking about women, and in the women also you're talking about only the working women, and you're researching on them. Make sense? That is called stratified sampling.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you're creating stratas, each subgroup you are creating, right? Now it's a cluster sampling. It's generally used while we are dividing the population area into samples. Government generally uses it. So when the new policy, a new law comes into action. So what government sometimes do is a pilot study. So they choose different districts across the country, and they do their pilot studies. So cluster sampling is generally used in the pilot study. So basically they choose district, and then that scheme is applied to all the population of that district. Make sense?
Ma'am, can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
explain once more?
Yes, I can give you example. Smart cities is the example for this. So government has chosen smart cities. Some cities they have chosen on some criterias, and now whatever the scheme, whatever the benefits of the smart cities are, that would be applied to the entire population.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, smart city. Government generally uses this, for pilot studies. Uh, I cannot come across with any other example right now. I hope that makes
Ma'am,
sense.
ma'am, when you
Yes.
are talking about a particular city which is a smart city, right? So on the basis of that, you select certain cities and then you tell that whole of all the cities are smart cities, like that.
No, no, no. So basically, what it says is you choose different clusters, and now you've chosen all the members from those clusters, whatever clusters you have selected.
Okay, so all the members from those clusters
Cluster.
are smart citizens.
Yes, yes, that is what I was
Cluster are
trying to say.
smart citizens. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. So the benefits of smart cities are applied to like all the members, but only to those districts, only for the smart cities. Other districts are like the same only. That is what I was trying to say. Okay,
Yeah, ma'am.
okay, great. Multi-stage sampling is something when you are just mixing up two different methods of sampling. That is called multi-stage. When you used to, so one example of multi-stage sampling is when you are using stratified and random sampling together. So you make a strata of women, only the working women, and now you are doing the random sampling out of it.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, that is called multi-stage. Now sampling bias. Sampling bias is something when sampling bias is, basically we are all human beings. So sometimes what happens is whenever a researcher is doing some sampling or collecting the data, so they tend to become biased, or sometimes it's unintentional also, but it can be true. So a researcher should put in all the effort so that there is no bias that is there, at least in the data collection and analysis. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
because
Yeah.
because sample, see, if you're biased in sampling, so it will be affecting all of your research, because then your data, whatever you have collected, would be biased. Your analysis would be biased, and whatever outcomes that would be there, that would also be biased, right? So that is why researchers should avoid. So what happens is sometimes people already decide what they want to get in the outcome, even before starting their research, which is a very wrong approach, I would say, because then you are more prone to the sampling bias part. Yes, I hope that's clear.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Um Okay, this is one example of a weight loss study. So, medical researcher is testing a new weight loss treatment. They advertise on a social media site that they're looking for volunteers to participate. Now, what is the sampling bias here? I hope this will make something clear. See, now, even because they have advertised it on social media, so only the people who are using social media would be, participating in the study. Yes, people who are not using social media, how would they know about this study? So the result would only be, it is a bias, right? Now sample may have characteristics that are different from the population of interest, since it is on social media and they're talking about a weight loss treatment. Even people who are not a part of the weight loss treatment, they can also answer in it, and which can change your outcomes, and change the basically the result, the end result. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And for example, volunteers may be individuals who are already actively trying to lose weight by other means. Like they are also part of this weight loss treatment, but they are also doing yoga, and maybe they're already going to the gym. They're already on a particular diet, right? So that is the bias. Yes, clear. That is, so these are the sampling bias that can come across. So I have deliberately put this example so that it becomes clear what sort of sampling bias can come into picture. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, blinding is it's basically a single blind study is when the participants do not know that they are a part of the research. Like you are talking to someone normally, you're talking to one of your friend about for example, you're talking to one of your friend about online dating. He or she thinks that it is a very you're just talking to them normally as a friend, but you are researching on them. So here the participants do not know that you are researching on them. Okay. uh, Next is double blind study, where neither the participant and nor the researchers, they do not interact directly, right? That is called double blind study, when nobody knows that they're a part of the research study. Like I can give you one example. I know you might have understood the single blind, but double blind is something that you might have not understood. Double blind, for example, if you have ever sent your paper to a good journal, they do double blind studies. So what happens is a researcher, they send their paper to these journals. Now these journals, what they do is, yes, they send these papers to some editors who do not know, the editors do not know the name of the researchers, and the researchers do not know the name of the editors. That is called this double blind study. There's just a paper involved.
Ma'am, exam papers.
Exam papers, board exam checking, very good example. That is also part of the double blind study. It's just a roll number, and the person who is checking it doesn't know whose copy they are checking. Clear? So you can choose
Yes.
what study you want to undertake depending on the research, right? Clear? Should we move to the
Yes, ma'am.
example? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Example is the vitamin B energy drink study. So researchers wants to know if adults who consume a drink that is high in vitamin B12, whether it has increased their energy or not. So they obtain a representative sample of adults, right? All participants have given a drink, and they are told to consume it every morning. Now they are not told what is in the drink. So half of them are drinking vitamin B12, and half of the people are drinking the exact same, almost the same thing, which tastes the same, but there is no vitamin B12 involved in it, right? So what is it? They just called a placebo effect. They think that they are consuming vitamin B12, but then they are not. So that is called the placebo group. I don't think it is important for your study, but just have put. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, guys. See you tomorrow. We'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow at like 8:15. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, ma'am. That's okay.
Okay. Bye. Good
Okay,
night.
thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.